Hello, Matt here from Just Football and Soccer. And I know usually the spotlight is on new transfers for strikers, forwards, attacking flair players. However, I've been doing research on previous Premier League seasons from 2010-2011 season on to 2025, the season what has just finished. Look at how relevant strong defensive partnerships were for the Premier League winning champions. So what I've done is put together all of the league winners throughout them years and the two defenders who have played together with the most throughout the season, throughout that championship winning season, just to see how relevant it was, or just to see how important it is to have a solid partnership in a back four. However, there were some teams, there were some seasons which did go into a back three occasionally, such as Pep's Man City, where no one really knows what they do, and there was some seasons where the centre backs will rotate from a choice between 2, 3 and 4 different players, which you are about to see right now. Instead of taking it back until the start of the Premier League, I just started at 2010 and 2011, because going back any further, you could even argue that the first 2 or 3 seasons from 2010, it wasn't as competitive, or the dynamics hadn't changed to the point where they have changed now in regards to money spread out across more teams than, let's say, Chelsea, United and Man City. So 2010-2011 was Man United. For those obviously who started supporting Man United in this era, okay, this was the second from last time that we won the title. So at that time, they obviously had Wes Brown, we had Johnny Evans in the fold as well, but Vidic and Rio had a superb partnership for a good few seasons, 18 matches together. Now, all of these stats are from Transfer Market, which was the most accurate. And look, some of them will be out by maybe 1 or, if any, 1 or 2 games, possibly. However, I've gone on the premise of appearances made together. Now, that didn't have to be starting appearances. It could have been starting. It could be coming on as sub only in the Premier League. So these are matches where they played with each other during 90 minutes. It could have been for 1 minute. It could have been for the full 90 minutes. So as you can see in this season, United won with 37 goals against, so conceding 37 with his partnership. And you can see basically Chelsea and Man City had better defensive records. However, they lost fewer games and they scored more goals. So already there's an argument. Yes, goals do win games. However, this video is going to research and investigate what effect a good central pairing or defensive partnership has in terms of winning the Premier League title. So 18 matches together. It could have been 19, could have been 18. Winners for 2010 and 2011. Now, you might look at that and think that isn't a lot. So it possibly wasn't down to the partnership, because 18 matches with Rio and Ferdinand isn't a lot. However, they did rotate with Wes Brown at the time, John O'Shea and Johnny Evans. So Wes Brown and O'Shea, who were really versatile. But the bulk of the matches was a partnership with these two in. Going on to the season after 2011 to 2012 winners, as you can see here, City won, I believe, just off the top of my head, this is when they beat QPR in the dying seconds. If I'm not mistaken, because this is the one yet where they actually were level on points. But as you can see, City had the better goal difference with goals scored and goals against. So here with Vincent Kompany and Lescott, who built the partnership here. And as you can see, against United, they had better defensive record. They scored more goals. Everything else was the same. So that was the defining factor. And you can just see Arsenal in third place there, okay, with the third best defensive record as well. So around 27 matches. Now, this is quite early on. And just from this point, it's interesting to see the dynamics and the progression of Manchester City in regards to the central pairing or replacements for the centre backs, because now, as we go through the years, you will see that they have always had kind of like a third choice or a third or fourth choice who is able to slot in and rotate, especially for times when Pep did want to go at three at the back. But as we all know, sometimes if it went three at the back, they would have a player stepping into midfield, or they would have a fullback what went into central midfield role. You know how Pep is. So, as you will see, that does change as the seasons go on, but they've always got someone in the background coming through ready for the next season. So, this was Company and Lescott, around 27 matches together, which is a really, really good stint. 2012 and 2013, United, which was the last season in which they won it before David Moyes took over, so Fergie's last season. Now, there is an argument here for this season that it wasn't very competitive at all. Everyone knows that United's squad were on the way out, as people found out later on. And here you can see the goals against, or the defensive record wasn't the best in the league. City had the best defensive record, with Chelsea, who in third place had 39. I'm sorry, I'm taking it just by the stats that City had the best defensive record, because I'm just showing the top three. But as you can see, United scored more goals. So yes, scoring more goals was the saviour, but it's not that they didn't have the best defensive record, as the defensive partnership of Johnny Evans and Rio Ferdinand only played 14 matches together, around 14 or 15 matches. And again, this is where the rotation came in. This is where the injuries started to come in. This is where United's firepower did actually push them to the title. And as you can see, the points tally in the end was quite substantial against City and Chelsea. Moving on now to 2013, 2014. Companies still in there, and Dimichelis is now in the fold. Now, this is where Company was, everyone knows, as a solid leader, solid, absolute man mountain, but City always paired him with another solid centre half, a very rock solid, reliable, strong centre half. Company was comfortable almost doing everything, so basically City were very solid with this foundation throughout. This is the season where City and Liverpool were just ridiculous in terms of their firepower, goals scored, 102 for City, 101 for Liverpool. But you can see that their defensive record is what helped push them to the title. 37 goals conceded, but Chelsea went in with 27 goals conceded. Chelsea were very solid, but as you can see, if you're looking at previous seasons, 71 goals isn't a bad haul, but against 101, 102, Chelsea fell short slightly. So here, mixed with the firepower and good partnership, 22 matches is a good innings together as a central two. And yep, City start to creep in terms of dominating the Premier League. 2014, 2015 was solid from Chelsea with John Terry and Gary Cahill. This is what I would call, a good old-fashioned centre-half pairing here. I mean, they're just solid, both dominating in the air, strong, just two rocks at the heart of the central defence. Best defensive record there, conceding 32 goals that season. Firepower, they was outgunned by City, but it didn't matter, because as you saw, City lost more games. So here I would say that the defensive partnership or the defensive ability, because you've got to remember, goalkeepers are very important in the structure of the back five. If it's a four defenders and one goalkeeper. So you have got to say that having a familiar pairing, this is what I'm getting at for the video, is really, really important. 36 matches together is really familiar. John Terry and Cahill, and combining to build a great partnership. And you will see, if you don't already know, that Cahill does go on to perform solidly for a few more seasons as well. Great buy. Was he from Villa originally? As time would, I mean, it's a while ago now, 10 years ago, but if I can remember from top of my head, I think he came from Villa. But yeah, great partnership there, and a good title win for Chelsea there, solid. 2015, 2016 will be famous for famous Leicester City win. Now, this is really interesting because, again, when you're looking at a central pairing in defence, you can see that Wes Morgan and Robert Huth was really consistent. It says 35 matches, but some sources say 36 to 37 matches. However, that might have been through a substitute appearance or one coming off, but I tried to find the most accurate and it said 35 matches altogether. Now, you got to remember Ranieri, who was a manager at the time, known for his time at Chelsea as the Tinkerman, he actually made the least amount of changes for this title winning team. And he transitioned into just a normal 4-4-2, sometimes a defensive kind of 4-5-1, or when they're defending even five at the back, 5-4-1, they have Vardy. If you can see, this is a very, very low scoring season. 68 goals scored, Spurs with 69 goals, Arsenal with 65, but you can look at the defensive record and you can see how important that was to their win. Also, you can see, wow, look at that, just losing 3 matches all season. So that enabled them to win the league because they still drew 12, which is quite a high amount for the league champions at that time. Now, people can say, look, City are out of the fold. At the time, United were out of the fold as well. Chelsea all had, people would say, subpar seasons, but that is taking nothing away from Leicester City. They deserve this with the consistency because they still had to win the matches. So here I would say this dominating partnership, Wes Morgan, Robert Huth, where you would say, look, not the best defenders in the world. However, the partnership they struck up together shows that it is important in this case for there to be some kind of solid partnership where the two defensive pairing, if we are playing four at the back, but I'm going on teams who have won the league playing four at the back, even though Conte did come in and did try and switch it up with three at back, I believe sometimes at Chelsea. It does show that this was really important for Leicester City. 2016, 2017. Now, off the top of my head again, is this Conte's season? Because if it is, this is slight asterisks here with Gary Cahill and David Luiz. Yes, I believe it is. So 35 matches together. But Azpilicueta, I can't even pronounce it, Azpilicueta, also played as a third central defender. Although he's predominantly a wide player, he came in and he did play in a back three when they moved to a back three. Now, as you can see, Spurs did have a better defensive record. However, goals scored, also Spurs did really well. However, Chelsea won more games, Spurs drew more games. Okay, so Gary Cahill again providing a good partnership with another player. Now, for the matches they did play in a back three, I've got to say, David Luiz had his doubters, but he is well prepared and well tooled up to play in a back three because of his flexibility, his speed, and his ability to go out to wide areas. You don't want, this is what I'm going to go on to my Manchester United channel next. You don't want three Cahills playing a three at the back because he's just not mobile enough. Okay, so as you can see, this pairing was a great help. A lot of consistency as well, along with the third player, not in the back three when it was a back three, not to forget. 2017, 2018. Now, Otamendi and company still there again. 15 matches doesn't seem a lot because people were picking up injuries, but at this point, either John Stones was now in the fold. I'm not sure if Laporte came in yet. I believe it was John Stones being rotated around. Laporte may well be there already off the top of my head, but this is where they started rotating, and actually it was just exchanging like for like. So although you got Otamendi, Company started getting injured. Otamendi would get injured sometimes, but then John Stones and Laporte would then just slip in, which was just like for like. Again, this is just a ridiculous season for goal scoring for City, 106 goals, which is ridiculous. They hit the 100 mark, and United were nowhere near. It was a one-horse race. Yeah, just look about absolutely ridiculous. In terms of actual defensive records, United didn't have a bad season, but they just didn't have the firepower to get them over the line, even close to City in the end. So this is an asterisk. 15 matches together. However, the quartet or the trio that they did rotate was strong enough to enable the champions not to have many games together. Now you'll start to see some kind of pattern forming here where Laporte and John Stones struck up a partnership. Now, this was only by one or two more matches. Company would have been in place, but he was injured for just a couple more games than one of these players here mentioned. So again, you can see they didn't have the best defensive record by 1 goal. Liverpool did. However, they outgunned Liverpool and beat them by 1 point. So you have to say here, if they didn't have these defensive partnerships or the ability to swap in and out like for like defenders, okay, Liverpool might have just pipped them at the post. But they did have a great firepower, so this time again, the firepower did pay off, and it was those who scored the most ended up drawing the least and getting more wins. It's then fine margins in the end. 23 matches is still a lot of security, a lot of kind of knowledge and know-how of how each other's likes to play, how to complement each other's dynamics, strengths, and weaknesses as well. And you got to remember these two were in the fold the previous seasons, so they'd already had time forming a partnership, whether it be a bit part throughout the season or for a longer duration. Moving on then to 2019-2020, Liverpool win with Van Dijk and Gomez. 28 matches together, very dominant. You can see City scored 102 goals, but that was massive points total there from Liverpool, 99 points. They didn't have the best goal scoring record against City, you can't. However, they did have 2 goals better in terms of defensive record, and they didn't lose as many. Okay, it's plain and simple as that. But that is a big load of matches. Obviously, Van Dijk then features. He's still featuring it now. 28 matches together was very familiar for both of them. 2020, 2021. Now, this is when Diaz starts to come in the fold because Otamendi says, see you later. Now, 19 matches again isn't the biggest amount because Laporte is in the mixer now, but Diaz and John Stones were more familiar with 19 matches. They did have the best defensive record. They did score the most goals, and that's going to win you the title, right? More often than not, you've got the best defense, the best attack, you're going to win a title, okay? And as you can see, all the other teams are quite underwhelming, but 19 matches, you're not in the 20s, you're not in the 30s together, but it's that rotation again, which you will see continues now with Diaz taking over the role of company as being the most consistent centre-back. 2021, 2022, City again, Diaz and Laporte. Now, Laporte again has come into the fold where you've still got John Stones as the kind of backup player who pushed Laporte close. Now, was this when City also had Ake come in, or was that next season from Bournemouth? So they did have some backup players. John Stones was also there as well. At times, they did slip into a back three. Kyle Walker was slip into a back three as well. Best defensive record, along with Liverpool, they outscored Liverpool by 5 goals and beat them by 1 point. So it's them fine margins again. You got to say, look, the strong defensive record helped them. A lot of familiarity in terms of that rotation through the central pairing. 2022 and 2023, 19 matches together. Now, again, I'm repeating myself, but you got to say, look, there is familiarity with Diaz. So Diaz has now featured 3 times. And again, in the background, you've still got Laporte, you've still got Stones, you've still got Aki, I believe, or was he already let go? But now you've got Diaz and Akanji. Now, best defensive record here, 33 goals against, best scoring record. And look, again, fine margins. So now you're seeing a bit of pattern with City. The first United team, what could rotate and get away with it because Ferdinand and Vidic were so good. And then City always having a strong two pairing or third backup player, which then is brought into the fold ready for the following season or the season after that. So you see that although the matches together isn't high in the past seasons for City, they have the strength in depth of that quality like for like change. Okay. So although definitely you can't say, well, it's proven now that every partnership of 25 games or more together wins the league. It's not always the case. 23-24, 2023-2024, City win again. Diaz and Akanji yet again. So now you see that consistency. You can say, look, City is steamrolling teams in these years, which everyone knows. Firepower is ridiculous. Arsenal pushed them close this time as well. Arsenal, as we knew, had a great defensive record this season, but I mean, to keep up with City, especially with 91 goals, I know it came down to literally drawing, literally losing one more game instead of winning a game. It was just fine margins of a couple of points. If they had won one more game instead of drawing one more game, it is them margins. Okay, but again, 23 matches, you still had the main one, Diaz there, and Akanji was the pairing from the previous season. So familiarity there again. It's consistency, something which you have to say Manchester United haven't had for all them years. I'm putting out to a United Reborn channel, specific Manchester United channel, where I'm looking at, yes, it's going to be tough for them having three at the back, which they're trying to do now, but the just partnership, the pairing hasn't been there of this quality. And you got to see the quality of your DS now, Laporte, even Otamendi was solid, Company was massive, okay? So that's what a lot of cities wins have been based on. Yes, I used to be a defender myself, so I am kind of more focused on that. But I just think that the foundation of a strong defensive unit and partnership is so important for champions. And then going on to Liverpool, you got Van Dijk and Kanate again. Goals conceded wasn't, again, Arsenal have been solid the last two seasons. Wasn't as good as Arsenal's, but they outgunned them. They scored more than Arsenal that season, and they had 30 matches together, which is very consistent. So you have got to say, where the teams didn't have strength in depth, like United in the first season of this video, like like the Leicester City team, what didn't have strength in depth. Consistency was the key of that partnership. What was over 24, 25 matches into the 30 matches. Consistency, familiarity was key behind that. However, when the teams later on, especially with City, started having lower numbers in terms of matches played in the partnership, it is due to the strength in depth where they could take out one player or a player dropping out through injury and they could replace like for like in terms of quality, in terms of ability, and in terms of that relationship within the pairing, within that partnership. So if you got that three or four, not that now these days that you got the fourth chosen centre back happy to sit on the bench. But if you got a firm three, two of them solidly consistent, one of them dropping in when needed. If you get that consistency, it's going to help to build the foundations where the team with the first, second, or third best attack are likely going to win the league. That is what I found in my research. I hope you found that really interesting because I did, and I'm going to be watching with intrigue now if Arsenal, which they are doing, add to their firepower, keep the same defensive record. I know they've added defensively as well. How they're going to push Chelsea, Liverpool, and City this season. Let's take a look and get ready for this season. Thank you for watching. Watch the videos and playlists right here.